Hello and welcome to Watching Worst Films. This week we have been visiting our Mommie Dearest and it's 1981, the second Razzie ceremony. Yeah. So, as we touched on at the end of the last episode, you were really dreading this film,
There
Kyle.
was, yes. I was absolutely dreading this film.
Did it live down to your expectations?
I'm miserable.
Really? That bad?
Yeah, yeah. How was it for you though? Where you weren't dreading it as much as I was?
No, I was ignorant. I didn't really know much of the reputation of the film, and I didn't have the same reason to be fearful as you. I was like, it's about 2 hours. It's about Joan Crawford.
Yeah.
How bad can this be?
And I don't know if I mentioned it in the last one, but I was aware of this film. I knew of the book that it was based on. I knew that.
You're a Joan Crawford scholar.
I am a scholar of John Crawford. But so I kind of knew that, and I knew it was disowned and full of lies. And I knew it was badly received, the movie. That's kind of all I knew about it. But I was dreading it because I just didn't expect it to be anything exciting, anything for me. I think that's what my biggest fear was. It was just going to be a 2-hour telemovie. And that's kind of what I felt like I got. So, yeah.
Okay, so to backtrack, we'll just say, once again, not available on streaming.
No, available on YouTube.
Yeah.
For £3.49.
Yeah.
I did not pay £3.49.
If you want to watch Mommie Dearest and you haven't, then that is how you can access it. Way. And synopsis. So this is it a biopic? Would you say it's a biopic?
It's not, because this is from Christina, Crawford's adopted daughter. It's her story and it's her point of view. Mm-hmm. She's the protagonist almost, but and it doesn't cover enough of Crawford's life.
No,
to be a biopic.
Yeah, it starts. She's an established star when it starts, and it covers more Joan Crawford's relationship with her child. Really,
yes.
Christian gets sidelined.
Yeah, so. The brother gets completely sidelined. But again, we'll get into that.
Yeah. So this is a film about the Hollywood actress Joan Crawford and her abusive relationship with her daughter.
Yeah.
And of course, this is played for not comic effect, but of course, this is a hilarious watch, given that this is a movie about like a pantomime villain, like a nightmarish villain. It's horrible. It's just violence and abuse for 2 hours, isn't it?
It really, that's it. And it doesn't. I think this is why I'm so miserable after watching it, because it is just so repetitive.
Yeah.
And it even it covers childhood Christina and adult Christina, the adopted daughter, but it's the same throughout. It's just abuse and misery, and it's just so devoid of any joy or relationship or anything. And so I hate it.
Maybe I'd have feared it more if you told me it was about abuse going in. If I knew I was going to be watching a Michael Haneke film, if I knew this was going to be funny games.
I was watching funny games.
I'd have been like, oh no, this is going to be a really horrible, like sadistic. But I was like, I knew Joan Crawford had that nasty side to her.
Yeah.
But I thought, this will be like, it'll kind of deal with her fame. It'll kind of deal with like the positive sides of her relationship with her child.
Yes.
No, none of that.
No.
Just purely.
And that's Crawford herself is so just irredeemably evil. She is. It's got that Cinderella effect to it, especially. It opens with her cleaning the floor as well. With the shoes on and things. And I was like, this has got that Disney sort of.
Some little mice are gonna come along and sing a song.
It's all gonna be happy. And I just wanted something. I'm just so bored and miserable throughout this whole film, and
we should this is where we start the WWF cage match, where we have Joan Crawford versus conniving Camilla in terms of two of the most evil women ever committed to film.
Camilla and Diana, and I don't want to compare this to Diana too much, but I had so much more fun watching Diana.
Really?
I laughed with it. I laughed at it rather, not with it.
I thought you were kind of enjoying this at parts.
This is the most I've checked my phone.
Okay.
In a film so far. I was riveted to Diana because I couldn't understand what was unfolding in front of me. I was expecting things that never appeared. Mm-hmm. Whereas probably after half an hour, 45 minutes of this movie, I knew it was just going to be, every beat was going to be the same thing over and over again. No one was going to develop. No one was going to learn. Nothing new was going to happen. And
sometimes people don't change. That's a lesson in itself.
So, and I think that's why I was bored. It's the first time watching a Razzie that I've been bored.
Interesting.
And that's not to say Diana's a masterpiece, and especially coming off Indecent Proposal in her last episode, I was horrified by what I was watching in Diana. I genuinely enjoyed Indecent Proposal, whereas here I was just bored, and that's my biggest sin for it. It's just so bored.
Okay, well, we might talk a little bit more about this later on in comparison to Endless Love.
Yes.
Because I think I had the opposite experience where Endless Love, the worst film, but this to me was entertaining. So I didn't resent this film.
There's times as well where Faye Dunaway's performance as Crawford was entertaining, but 2 hours of it was, my laughs were gone within 20 minutes.
No, it gets tiring after, once you've seen I need to get the quote right because it's iconic. Is it no wire hangers?
No wire hangers. It's not my favorite quote. I'm sorry, my favorite quote. I wrote it down is, Tina, bring me the axe.
When it takes a turn into The Shining.
Yeah, I love that. I genuinely enjoyed that moment. But so even talking about it, how was Faye Dunaway's performance for you?
I struggled to appraise it because at first I was like, you know what? This is okay. Yeah. She looks the part.
She does. She definitely does.
She kind of captures something of Crawford's essence. Mm-hmm. Looking at it, you're like, this is clearly an adept actor. This is someone who knows how to act. There's no, it's not stilted or wooden in the way that, I'm assuming someone like Bo Derek is.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so to begin with, I was like, is this almost good? Is this like a Nicolas Cage performance where, I admire the swings she's taking?
Yeah.
Not all of them connect, but she's going for it. But by the end, I was like, this is so one note. This is so 100%. Over the top. It's just every single line is dialed up to 11.
So I think that the biggest thing I enjoyed was Dunaway's, and I'm not a huge fan. I love Chinatown.
Yeah.
And I love her in Chinatown, but I can't think off the top of my head what I've seen her in.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde, yeah. Oh shit, yeah. So I respect her. Oh fuck yeah, I totally forgot. So yeah, I do respect her as an actress, and she does look the part, and yeah, she's hamming it up a lot, but I can't tell. I'm blaming the screenplay, I'm blaming the book, I'm blaming the director. No one told her to dial it down. No one told her to.
But then no one told her to. I often come out in defense of actors being like, well, you know what, performances aren't created in isolation, but no one told her to dial it up. If you're an actor and you're like, I'm just going to play this character as a malevolent evil force that's just terrorizing. There needs to be some softness or some emotion. And yeah, this is the film didn't really give her that. But even as an actor, there was no subtlety. There was nothing where she never reined it back of I beat my daughter with a coat hanger. And then there was a glimmer of maybe I shouldn't have done that, or there was never any in her life. It was just pure rage. It was just sounding fury constantly.
And absolutely. And then it's but I'm going to blame the other elements because, it's I don't think you've ever seen the Dungeons and Dragons movie, have you?
I did.
Jeremy Irons chewing through the scenery.
Yeah, and Vin Diesel. I saw that one on VHS when I was a kid, and I think I was sick, so I have very bad associations formed with it.
Well, it kind of reminded me of that, because that's pantomiming to 100%. But nobody told them to tone it. You've got to direct a little bit, the dialogue and stuff in your performance. But I am blaming the director because I feel like this was a TV director. This is not someone that's done. Like I said, it did feel like a TV movie to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know the director. His name was, I've forgotten already, Frank Perry. And I have no idea what he's done. It's something I should have researched more. But he didn't seem to know what he was doing for the performance. And that's not just Dunaway's performance. That's quite consistent throughout all the people's performances. Some people are just reading lines. Some people are over emoting. It's all over the place. It's very inconsistent in the performances. So yeah, I'm gonna let Dunaway. I think she was probably my favorite part of this movie.
It's interesting because if there was anyone, I don't want I'm torn because if you bring in someone who gives a more reined in performance than Faye Dunaway, I feel like the movie's boring.
But it is. Yeah, I mean,
but-
it is boring. Though.
No, I mean, like, I feel like it's like you're right in that watching Faye Dunaway has a weird kind of magnetism where you watch her in some scenes and you're like, what is she going to do next?
Yes.
And so if you bring in someone who doesn't have that manic Cruella de Vil energy, then the movie just becomes flat and boring. But maybe if you get someone else who brings, someone else could bring more insight and portray her as more of a fully dimensional human being, which would improve the movie. So I don't know, I'm torn.
And I agree with that, and I understand that, but I think the script was so bad. And no matter who it was, it's always going to come across terrible. I mean, some of the lines of dialogue, each event just being abuse, like you said.
Yeah.
It's impossible to have any nuance or any sort of character development.
I'm not entirely sure, but I would probably come down on your side of it's easier to just make a meal out of this and chew the scenery than it is to if you try and do like a 3-dimensional performance, you probably just go down with the ship and the film is less entertaining for it.
And that's probably what other characters and actors in the film try to do. And it's trying to give that sort of balance and development, but it fails. It fails because it's
okay. No,
carry on. I'm just ranting away.
Well, I was just going to say, on the topic of research, you didn't do any research.
No.
I, on the other hand. So did you know that John Waters did a commentary for Mommie Dearest?
No, I did not. Have you listened?
John Waters. I have a feeling this man is gay. I have not listened. After we finish this episode, we're going to go back and we're going to watch it again with John Waters. But
should have watched it with the commentary in the first place. You know?
Obviously, the film is a camp classic, and the John Waters' thesis was basically that reputation is undeserved. He says that he's like, obviously, there's the coat hangers, wire hangers scene. He's like, if you take out a couple scenes that are over the top, he's like, no, it's a good drama,
really?
And Faye Dunaway's performance is good. So he thinks that the camp classic was just a marketing thing that was applied after the event. And
and that's Crawford itself as well, isn't it? Being an icon. But personally, I would prefer to see Divine in the role. Maybe I'd have been up for that. I didn't think it was campy.
It's not. No, I agree with John. I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's a good drama.
Oh no.
But I agree with John Waters of you take out these over the top moments, and it's not the Rocky Horror Picture Show that people make out to be.
No.
He said he said as well that he was like I think he said that Faye Dunaway's performance was Oscar worthy. It's just an issue that the film around her, he said it was like a William Castle film.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier. I think she was the brightest part, like, and everything around it, being like the sets, even the exterior shots at times. There was part earlier on, one of the early scenes where her and her partner, the lawyer, I can't remember his name, was walking on the beach, and it was every shot was changing. It was going from day to night. There was clouds. There was no consistency. And I was like, this is like a soap opera. This is just you've done this, blah blah blah. It's rushed. It's not. Some of the sets indoors and the offices.
The sets are dreadful.
They're awful.
Like all the opulent mansions, the movie studios, like the business executive suite at the end. They all just look like sets.
Yeah, and I mean, and at first, I kind of thought that was intentional. Like the MGM effect. It's all in the back lot. They're going for this classic sort of everything's a set.
The era.
But it is also 1981, and it doesn't ever. I mean, one thing that confused me was the timeline of the movie, because when was this meant to be set? Is this 50s, the 40s, the 60s?
Okay, well that ties into something I want to talk about, which is the editing in the movie. So I was reading a book about Chris Nolan recently. He said he's like, something that's really interesting is to speak to someone after they've watched the film and to ask them, how long do you think this took place over?
Yeah.
Because he said there's like an elasticity to time.
Yeah, of course there is. Yeah, absolutely.
And the example he gave was a joke in Police Academy where there's like a montage of them doing like all these activities, like riding horses, playing volleyball, like snowball fighting. And she's like, wow, I can't believe I met you yesterday or something. Okay, that was such a fun day we had.
That's played as a joke, right?
Yeah, that's an intentional. And with the editing in this film, To start off with, we have that incredible, I said to you, that incredible 2001 match cut.
Oh, beautiful.
Where it's the showers, the sort of jet of water from Joan Crawford's shower, where her guy friend enters wearing a towel.
Wearing a towel. Takes off the towel.
He gets undressed, puts on a towel, takes off the towel, goes into the shower. It's an amazing piece of blocking. And then he enters the shower, and we cut from the sort of jet spray to a water fountain. So we have that 2001 reference. And then later on, when Joan sends her daughter to a convent or to a nun school, we get a There Will Be Blood cut. Like, do you know the cut that everyone raves about in There Will Be Blood with like HW and his wife? As kids, they like jump off, and then it cuts to them getting married.
Yeah.
They do that here.
Yeah,
where like the daughter is like, as you said, dropped off at the convent and then almost immediately leaves.
Picked up and so like so like even on the time thing, I think it's definitely interesting because the little brother, Christopher, goes from being a baby to a toddler to 10-year-old to within minutes. And
well, it's not even like she adopts Christina as a baby. Christina then ages into a child. So Christopher
you're like 4
is
years
unborn. Christopher is like, Christopher doesn't exist.
She's got like this interview with a vampire and she's permanently 4 while he's aging around her.
You know what happened with the Mummy series? How Brendan Fraser. Mm-hmm. Do you know how they have the kid in The Mummy 2, and then in The Mummy 3, the kid's aged up to be like the same age as Brendan Fraser?
I mean, and I understand. I know, like even recently, my beloved Better Call Saul, its biggest problem is one of the child characters is maybe in Breaking Bad, but she's older in and her age jumps around from like 9 to 13 to 6, like, and it's just all over the place. But I can suspend my disbelief because it's a minor character that serves just a purpose here. And I can do that as well for Christopher to an extent. And he doesn't serve any purpose in the film, which is weird. Nothing was really touched on. I mean, he's adopted. I missed him getting adopted because I looked at my phone. You know, he ages throughout it, but he doesn't serve it. He could have cut him entirely. Easily. I don't understand it. Like, the time thing was so jarring to me really early on. And then throughout the whole film. I mean, they do age up Crawford and they do age up her nanny, butler, assistant. So with terrible makeup as well. Really, really bad. But, you know, there's an attempt, but there's no consistency, and I don't need timestamps and, you know, what year it is flashing
like a
up.
title card. Like 1964.
But something just to tell me that time has passed a little bit more effective.
I'd love to see the Christopher Nolan whatever happened to Baby Jane. The Christopher Nolan Mommie Dearest, where he'd be playing about with time. He'd maybe have the title like countdown to whatever happened to Baby Jane, like 10 years pre Baby Jane.
I mean, that's what I was waiting for the whole. It's when we get into the firework factory. I was looking forward to Baby Jane. I was because it's not a biopic and it doesn't reach that period of Crawford's life or anything.
It does. It reaches. It just skips past.
That's
probably the years when she was at the convent.
Yeah.
If it had dealt more with Joan Crawford than Christina Crawford, then you would have got that. It's hard to talk about in terms of plot because it's so relentless. Mm-hmm. We've kind of covered the plot.
It is.
Joan Crawford adopts kids. She abuses them, and then she dies. Sometimes when she abuses them, it's kind of funny when she's screaming about coat hangers or when she's chopping up all the flowers in her garden, and that's where the axe line comes in. But on the whole, it's just very grim and
it was
relentless.
And especially when it's young Christina as well. There's a scene where young Christina is pretending to be her mother in front of the mirror. And I squirmed a little bit because, you know, that's a real 5-year-old kid getting hurt. It looked like, you know, I only act so much.
You're gonna be like, hey, look, you retracted Shelley Duvall's Razzie. Like, retract.
Exactly. Yeah, like, and it's not, you know, it isn't anything that's done much worse nowadays. You know, if you watch a child abuse film, there's plenty of them, but yeah, it's so unnecessary, and it's uncomfortable when at times for that because it is so relentless. That's
where I thought the film was going to be. At that point in time, I still had higher hopes for the film because I thought it might be more psychologically insightful, and I thought we were going to learn more about Joan Crawford's insecurities and what motivated the abuse. Yeah. But we don't. She's just evil. There's no other side to her.
There was never. I see. I don't know if I was just a bit more pessimistic than you, but like I say, with the beach scene inconsistency, there's a scene very early on where Christina's in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And
they race.
And she asks, "Do you want to go for a race? Do you want to swim?" While the lawyer boyfriend's leaving, but she's in the pool with a swimming cap on, ready to race, and he's only like 4 steps up, And I was like, "Holy shit, that's taken him ages!" Like, how long's time? Like, it's not even in throughout the whole thing. It's just from scene to scene. Time just doesn't exist. And I knew that none of this fucking matters. And whoever's directing it is either incompetent or really doesn't just give a shit. Because he is adapting Mommie Dearest. Like, I understand not having the passion and love for it, I guess. But I was doomed from the start, to be honest.
Well, at the end, when they're reading Mommie Dearest's will, there is that weird cut to Christopher. And so they kind of go from like a front-on shot to like a side shot, and just with the blocking and the window and the stuff in the background.
Yeah.
I said to you, like, hang on, wait, have they completely changed setting? Is this a really clever, like, is this an abstract edit? And you were like, no, it's the same room. It's just poorly staged. But that's the attitude with Mommie Dearest. Lacks attitude to time. Is moments like decades can pass in the blink of an eye.
Absolutely, no one will age. So I guess that's where like where I get curious about the making and maybe the production of it, because how serious an effort was this? I kind of read somewhere years back that no one wanted to adapt it, or it was disowned and after the book, and I don't.
Franco Zeffirelli, who we will talk more about in the second half, he was originally meant to direct it, and Anne Bancroft was meant to play John Crawford, and I think there was there was a whole other creative crew, and then they were all like, "This is awful. There's no way to make this good," and they all left.
And I don't think the real Christina was involved in any of the movie, was she?
No, she's kind of disowned it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we need to read the book, Mommie Dearest. Maybe that has what we're missing in terms of Joan Crawford dealing with her demons and a complex abusive figure, as opposed to like an evil stepmother from a cartoon.
And it's spoilers, but at the very end, final scenes with her and Christopher finding out they've been disowned from the will.
Yeah.
Immediately after her mum's death, and immediately probably writing the book Mommie Dearest, it gives me that cynicism of, yes, you are absolutely cash grabbing, and you are absolutely.
It has one of the greatest final shots that in cinema is the executor is like, you get nothing, she's left you nothing, and then Christopher's like, well, Mommie Dearest always had to have the last word, didn't she? Yeah. And then Christina's like, we'll see about that. And then the camera sort of zooms in and holds on her face. Like, they might as well have like started playing like sinister music. And then cut to title card, Mommie Dearest. Dun, dun, dun.
Which is like, so it's the kind of the ending, something I kind of want to speak about a little bit, because again, I don't know how factual anything is about anything. Like, not the film, not the book.
Joan Crawford was a person who existed.
She
beyond that,
yeah,
I don't know.
She's an actress, and I just forgot about so much. Just bits and pieces I've picked up over the years. But it never came across. I mean, because she's so evil, it's strange that Christina maintained a relationship in her adult life, in her late 20s.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. And they almost were friendly in certain scenes when she was older. Until she took her job in the soap opera.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing, is like there's so much good stuff here in terms of Joan Crawford's insecurity in her relationship with her age and her fame and wanting, like she says that thing at the beginning where she's like, I want to adopt every child in the world. There's that thing of she clearly wants that sort of continuity of having someone who will carry on after she's gone, but hates the idea of there being like someone supplanting her.
Which is very interesting. It's
yeah.
It's actually, I could see a good Crawford biopic dealing with all this.
Well, that scene where she fills in for her daughter on the soap opera and she's like 28 or something.
Yeah, and she's in her 60s at least.
Yeah, that could have been so good in other hands. Like when we spoke about last week, when we were speaking about Warren Beatty's Peter Pan quality, like that could have been so good in anyone else's hands, but it's not really dealt with on either side by anyone. It's just
skip 20 years ahead.
Tears in the rain.
Tears.
So this led the Razzie nominations of its year. It had 9 nominations and it won almost all of them. So we will fire through these very quickly. So, of course, it won Worst Picture. That's why we're speaking about it. Do you think that was deserved?
Having not seen any of the other nominations except Heaven's Gate, I'm going to say yes. I'm comfortably already, and I'm going to tally this up as we go along, but this is the worst movie we've watched so far.
Okay.
In my opinion. And the first I could understand winning a Razzie.
Okay. For me, I've done a little bit more research and I've checked out some of the other ones. Endless Love. I think I would give Endless Love the Razzie over this. Because there was some interesting stuff here. Whereas Endless Love, despite Tom Cruise being in it for a second and Jimmy Spader, Endless Love is just it's even more TV movie than this.
That's fair.
And it's just like there's nothing about Endless Love. It's just like a soap opera. Like I said, Joan Crawford's life could have made an interesting biopic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Someone else could have made an interesting movie out of this. Whereas Endless Love was just one of those like non-entities where I'm not sure why I watched it.
So Endless Love was wrong.
Endless Love, probably. I also watched Porky's. And
Porky's is worse to you, isn't it?
I hate Porky's.
Understandably so.
Mommie Dearest. Like me and John Waters could sit back and watch Mommie Dearest and have a good time.
Yeah.
Whereas Porky's, I never want to see or think of.
Not
again.
even with Waters.
Maybe.
See, I
actually.
think Porky's is disgusting. We were speaking about this pre-film, but it's a disgusting, out of date, vile thing. But watching it with someone, just for the shock of it as well, I can understand getting some entertainment out of it in a terrible, terrible, twisted way. I can't see me enjoying watching this with Waters.
Yeah, Porky's is a weird one because, like, it almost seems like a failure in terms of I'm watching utterly loathsome characters and bad things happen to them. Why am I not enjoying this more?
Yeah.
I'm watching people that I hate suffer.
Yeah.
Bob Clark, what have you done? Why is this not fun?
Yeah.
So for me, Mommie Dearest maybe makes the podium, but it's certainly behind Endless Love and Porky's.
Very fair.
It was nominated for Worst Director, Frank Perry. It was nominated for, it was nominated in one shared Worst Actress for Faye Dunaway. Do you think that's...
No. So that's the first one I'm going to say. I'm going to say that the Worst Director should have won, especially because...
Well, we'll deal with that.
We'll come back to that. No, Faye Dunaway shouldn't won. She co-won it with Bo Derek.
Yeah.
And we've not got to their Bo Derek saga yet. No. No.
See, this is where we flipped. I think... Like I said, clearly Faye Dunaway is an accomplished actor, but she's making choices, or she's making the same choice a million times.
And I'm not going to stand up here and say she's great. Like, I'm not saying this is a great performance, but did you prefer... Who's in Endless Love?
Brooke Shields. Maybe we'll deal with this more in the second half, but Faye Dunaway, jury's out for me. Worst supporting actor... Steve Forrest won as Greg Savitt.
Is that the lawyer boyfriend?
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with that. I think there's worse supporting actors in this film.
Christopher. Like the Razzies almost get on. They're almost like a dog. This is where they're like a dog with a bone, where they've just decided, okay, everyone about this is Razzie worthy. Where I don't necessarily know, like the main person who stands out, good or bad, is Faye Dunaway.
Yes.
To a lesser extent, her daughter. Everyone else is just kind of bobbing along. And if you think Greg is Razzie worthy, then you probably think like most actors in most films are Razzie worthy because he's just kind of forgettable.
Yeah, but
he's nothing.
He's nothing.
He's competent.
And he plays it like a TV movie, but there is the second or third husband, I think, puts in a worse performance.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with that one.
Worst supporting actress. This is interesting because of the 5 nominations, 3 of them are from Mommie Dearest. So Dana Scarwood won as the adult Christina Crawford, Britannia Alda as Carol Ann, and...
that's the nanny assistant?
I think so, yeah. And Mara Hobble as the child Christina Crawford.
Thoughts?
The nanny's probably not deserving. I'd put her in the camp with Greg, where... she has that weird scene where she's speaking to the daughter and she's like, your mother she's got a screen test. Do you know what a screen test is? That's kind of a little bit bad.
She's not great.
But she's not really in it that much.
She's not in it enough, and
she's the Anthony Hopkins of Razzie, so she just comes in for like 7 minutes of screen time.
And I'm also going to take away the child one, because I feel, I mean, it's a child actor. She's not great. But to dunk on her is quite harsh, because, I mean, like, even with the material she's got, like, I'm going to take that. The adult Christina, though, it's not got much positives for me to say. Neither
Christina is great, but similar to you, I'd be inclined to be a little bit more forgiving when dealing with a child.
Yeah.
And then we have Worst New Star, where, again, Mara Hobble is nominated as the young Christina Crawford. And then we have Worst Screenplay. It won for Frank Yablans and Frank Perry, Tracy Hotchner and Robert Getchell, based on the book by Christina Crawford, although, as we've discussed, maybe not based on it that closely. It absolutely deserves that.
This is a runaway. This is definitely the one it won. And this is, even when we were watching the credits, 4 people wrote this. Like,
I don't know, did you? I feel like you didn't really see that in the 80s as much. I kind of thought that was a modern, like, Marvel movie, or like everyone spoke about it with Elvis. How, like, Baz Luhrmann's credited like 17 times on Elvis.
Well, yeah,
Elvis's screenplay.
From what, and I could be completely wrong, like, you'd get more uncredited writers back then. You know, there would be maybe multiple writers and redrafts, and I think the Super Mario Brothers has like 6 writers on it, but how many are actually credited? And again, having 4 people write this based on a book boggles my mind. I don't understand. It is awful. Everything in it is so poorly written. Not even just the dialogue, not just scene by scene, everything. There's not one redeemable thing about the script, in my opinion. Apart from Tina, bring me my axe.
Okay, so this brings us back to our recurrent feature: smallest change you can make to make the biggest difference. For me, part of it was tied up with Faye Dunaway. Of, do you, as we've kind of discussed, changing Faye Dunaway, it's not really a small change.
That's a huge change.
Yeah, if someone else was in this role, arguably it might improve it to a little extent, but it also might make it like massively more tedious and unwatchable. So do you have any thoughts on how you would
improve it with one small change?
Yeah.
Concentrating on a time period is the only thing I could think about, rather than trying to span the whole childhood of Christina. If it was just later day Christina and recounting maybe how she was abusive when she was earlier,
you'd give it a framing narrative. She's in a rocking chair.
Something. The smallest thing though I can think to make it worse is changing the soundtrack.
Okay.
Which is Henry Mancini.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pink Panther, Peter Gunn theme, famous. Worked with
Basil the Great Myth Detective.
Yeah, he worked with Orson Welles. He worked on the Tom and Jerry movie.
Don't sneak those two in together.
Very wide. He's got a competent score.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it invokes 50s and 40s sort of cinematic scores, but I think if you change that, especially in the time period for 1981, into a more contemporary,
John Carpenter.
Yeah, I loved it. But any sort of, I was thinking like, you put a disco soundtrack on this. This could be an endless love soundtrack on here. Baby talk. I think if the score wasn't as competent and invocative of the earlier times, it would have been much worse, and it would have felt even more like a TV movie. So that's the smallest change I can think to make it even worse. Other than that, though, it's rough.
My change, Bette Davis. Add her to the movie, even if it's just a cameo, even
the
if
real
it's just
like dancing on her grave, isn't it?
That's how it ends. A post-credit scene where Bette Davis just tap dances across her grave.
We'll see who wins, who laugh.
What's the iconic quote from her? It's something like, "There's nothing good to say about the dead. Joan Crawford is dead. Good." So I'd have had Bette Davis in the movie just for like a second, just like a little appearance by her would improve this movie immeasurably. And so that concludes the first half. Join us in the second half, where we'll be discussing the other nominees and winners from 1981.
See you soon, guys.
Hello, and welcome back to the second half of the WWF official podcast, where we discuss all the winners and nominees. So, as we've covered, Mommie Dearest won. Endless Love was nominated, entirely worthy, in my opinion. Heaven's Gate.
Bone of contention for me, but what about yourself?
Yeah, as a picture, Heaven's Gate clearly isn't. Heaven's Gate clearly isn't one of the worst pictures of 1981, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
There's another nomination, which I won't fight, but in terms of looking at the movie, detaching it from the reputation, just as a film, it's nowhere near. It's of way more merit than these films.
And I'm not going to stand and say I love Heaven's Gate. Yeah. I'm not going to say it's a great movie, and I understand everything about it. Everything about it, but it's not the worst picture. It's too beautiful at times. It's too well. No, there's too much greatness about it. It's just bogged down by other things.
The Legend of the Lone Ranger. I've only seen this movie and the Johnny Depp Lone Ranger, so to me, this is just what a Lone Ranger movie is. Yeah. It's like an awkward, stilted Western action movie. Christopher Lloyd's in it. That was fine. Nice. It's like he's the villain. Kind of unremarkable, like bad wooden performances, but some moments.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, you can just play the William Tell overture, and that's like the cheat code of like you have someone riding on a horse, that playing, and I'm like, whoa, this is exhilarating. Tarzan the Ape Man, which I was considering watching, and you were like, no, you're going to be having way too much Bo Derek later down the line.
You cannot get, Bo Derek is happening whether we like it or not, multiple times. We're going to we can't escape her. And John Derek as well. Like,
don't be volunteering for Bo Derek.
No. So I'm glad you missed. I mean, that's probably the worst picture from 1981. Without seeing any of the other ones, just guaranteeing it. I could be wrong, but screw that film.
Worst director, Franco Zeffirelli for Endless Love. What's your opinion on Zeffirelli?
I don't really have an opinion. What do you do?
I thought you might like him because I just assume I was like, oh, Kyle loves all Italian directors.
I do.
But he was mostly like Shakespeare adaptations. So he did Romeo and Juliet, and then he did the Mel Gibson's Hamlet.
Yeah. Okay, see, I'm Bruno Mattei, Sergio Corbucci.
It's funny because I thought Endless Love, like reading the synopsis, I was like, oh, this might be like a modern Romeo and Juliet. Maybe it'll be good. And it very much wasn't.
No.
And Zeffirelli is like a huge part of that.
He's one of the...
absolutely worthy. Could be a worthy winner. Frank Perry, Mommie Dearest.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All over the place. Who knows what was going on here. Blake Edwards for S.O.B. John Derek for Tarzan the Ape Man. You gonna go at stump for John Derek?
I'm not gonna go. No. The thing is, like in retrospect, after when we suffer through the Derek films, we're gonna say, you'll see what he's like as a director. You're gonna see what Bo was like as an actor. Like, it's all gonna be just dreadful. So maybe he got robbed here.
Well, he may well have done, because the winner is Michael Cimino for Heaven's Gate.
Which infuriates me. Yeah.
See, this is where I won't fight it. Although I think Heaven's Gate is an enjoyable film, if you look at the job of a director, Michael Cimino made all sorts of errors. Like, nobody else here killed the studio.
But that's not the film. I mean, it is the film, and it is. It's Cimino as a producer at times. Is everything that's wrong, and the bloatedness and everything that goes wrong with Heaven's Gate.
It's down to him.
It is down to him. But I think that it should just be based on the movie.
If you're just basing off the end product, then he's far better than all of these.
And and Heaven's Gate is better directed, in my opinion, than Mommie Dearest. Mommie Dearest didn't bring down a studio, but that is not, as a movie, as a director, as a direction. No, I'm not.
We'll send you out to a ranch with like Chris Christopherson doing cocaine for
I would love that.
24 months. And then be like, would you rather spend like 6 weeks shooting Mommie Dearest?
No.
Then we'll see if you change your tune.
You watch Mommie Dearest with Waters. I'll watch Heaven's Gate on coke.
You're not watching it. You're filming it. You're going to be there for 3 years.
And Cimino's off his head as well, isn't he?
They're all. Yeah.
Sign me up.
Okay. Worst actor. Here we go. Chris Christopherson, Heaven's Gate, and Rollover as James Averill and Hugh Bill Smith. Have you seen Rollover?
I've not even seen. I thought actually Rollover, just in saying it, was the roller scene from Heaven's Gate. You know, where they're going around the roller thing. I've never actually seen Rollover. Never even heard of it.
That's my biggest issue with Heaven's Gate when I watched it. Was I was like, no wonder like it was so over budget. Like, limit this man's extras. Like, you should not be having multiple 100 extra dance scenes.
Yeah, no,
in one
hell
film.
Yeah. Hell yeah. What's your thoughts on Chris as an actor?
I haven't seen. I've only seen Heaven's Gate. I haven't seen Star Is Born. I haven't like what other stuff.
So I mean I know him from Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid.
I haven't seen that.
I'm a big Sam Peckinpah fan, so he's all right in that. Like I think he gives a good performance. I also know him from Fire Down Below. Is that Fire Down Below, Steven Seagal film, which I think is going to come up later.
Okay, moving on.
but Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, where he plays Billy the Kid, he plays the title role as well. He, especially for like a musician going into acting, and especially those highwaymen, you know, like you've seen Willie Nelson, you've seen Johnny Cash in films. They're worse in my opinion. Christopherson can hold his own.
I think only having seen him in Heaven's Gate, I kind of got the sense, like I kind of saw him as a little bit of a low rent Jeff Bridges, but he was fine. He didn't disgrace himself.
And I'm not there as well.
He might be. I'm sure I've seen Old Man Christopherson
and stuff.
But yeah, I like him enough. I'd be keen to see more of his work.
And I think he's fine in Heaven's Gate as well, coked or not.
And Rollover is an Alan J. Pakula film with the tagline, "The most erotic thing in their world was money."
Decent proposal.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you look at the poster, that looks like it could be Chris Christopherson has his head buried in Jane Fonda's chest, and there appears to be some money there. Yeah. Echoing the scene in Indecent Proposal when they're rolling about in the bed.
I think Chris Christopherson had a wonderful time in 1981.
Well, Heaven's Gate was probably 1976 to 1981. Then we had Richard Harris in Tarzan the Ape Man. This might just be them out to gun for anyone who's met the Derricks.
Yeah.
Then we have Bruce Dern in Tattoo as Carl Kinski. I've seen that 100% not deserved.
Okay.
I feel like this must be the Razzies looking at the film and going like, there's a bad man. The lead's a bad man. Yeah. This must be like the actor must have failed because I don't like this person.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Because it's almost like a Red Dragon-esque thing.
All right.
Of he's like a creepy like tattoo artist who like kidnaps a woman and tattoos her. And Bruce Dern's so good at, like, it's almost like a taxi driver like a Paul Schrader kind of thing of we're just following a lonely, deranged, dangerous man, and Bruce Dern can do that in his sleep.
That's fair. So that's not. I mean, I'm also going to say a side note as well. Like glancing up at there, I thought it said Klaus Kinski for a moment, and I panicked because if Kinski was nominated, then I think I'm out.
Tattoos. It's a kind of interesting film, but the if you're going to single anything out for praise, it would be Bruce Dern.
So that's
completely I do not agree with that.
Fair.
And that's interesting because this is the Sex and the City year. So Miranda from Sex and the City is in Tattoo as a teenage prostitute who like wants Bruce Dern to tattoo her. And then, of course, Samantha from Sex and the City is in Porky's.
See, it all comes... She was robbed this year then.
So yeah, I'm labeling 2018 the year of Sex and the City. Who do you feel?
2018?
Sorry, I'm labeling. You're revealing my number dyslexia here again.
1981.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the year of Sex and the City. No, that's fair.
Then we have Gary Coleman on The Right Track as Lester. I haven't seen anything Gary Coleman has ever done beyond The Simpsons.
Simpsons. Yeah. Apart from bit pieces and TV shows, Fresh Prince and Simpsons, I know Coleman is a meme more than as an actor, so no comment.
Clinton Spilsbury for The Legend of the Lone Ranger as the titular Lone Ranger, John Reed. He was pretty bad, like the film's just a bit clunky, and he was the lead, and so he was a large part of that. Reading some of the stuff afterwards about how they had to dub his lines and things, yeah, he's probably a worthy winner. He was Lazenby-esque, I would say. He's probably cast for his like look as opposed to his talent.
Watch what you say there. You have to be very careful there.
So, worst actress, we have Barbara Streisand Barbara Streisand. Sands like the beach. All Night Long as Cheryl Gibbons. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman is in that with her.
Oh.
She's not good. Probably Razzie worthy.
Fair.
Brooke Shields, Endless Love, 100% worthy winner. Linda Blair, Hell Night.
I have not seen. No, I was looking up. I was like, oh, Blair. Oh, like oh. No, I haven't seen Hell Night. I might actually check it out though. Yeah.
And then we have joint winners. So Bo Derek from Tarzan the Ape Man as Jane, and Faye Dunaway from Mommie Dearest as Joan Crawford. So in my eyes, I kind of cleared this with you beforehand. I don't think I've seen Bo Derek in anything, but my perception of her was just like a plank.
Yeah.
She's just someone who like cannot act at all.
Is absolutely like it's and this is going back on memory, so once we go through the Dereks we'll see if I'm right, but she's like you say, a plank that can't act, and he is a plank that can't direct or act. So, and they have zero chemistry besides being married. You're gonna be in for a ride when we get to the Dereks, and not in a good way.
So I thought with them being joint winners, it's almost like it's two extremes. Bo Derek, someone who cannot act at all. Faye Dunaway, someone who acts too much. So if you kind of took a little bit of what Faye Dunaway was doing and gave it to Bo, they might both be.
Do you not get Brooke Shields and Endless Love?
Oh.
Is that not the result of this chemistry?
Worst supporting actor, we have Daniel DeVito in Going Ape as
Daniel
Laszlo.
DeVito.
Yeah, it's
he's getting his full name.
Imagine if that wasn't his name. I assume it was. Neither of us have seen Going Ape.
No.
James Coco, Only When I Laugh, as Jimmy. And interestingly, I think this was the first performance for someone who was nominated for an Oscar for the same role.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we should check that out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Ernest Borgnine, Deadly Blessing, as Isaiah Schmidt. And Billy Barty, Under the Rainbow, as Otto Kreeling.
Which is one film I actually have seen.
I've seen that as well. Yeah, the Chevy Chase.
Yeah, with the Wizard of Oz with the little people.
Munchkins.
Yeah.
And he's a Nazi.
Oh yeah.
So, we discussed Steve Forrest won. I'd give it to Billy Barty because Under the Rainbow is hideous.
It is a hideous film, and I like Billy Barty and other things, but
as the Nazi, and like I don't know, like I went into Under the Rainbow with like sort of moderate expectations, which I feel like is their current theme. Jericho goes into notoriously bad movie thinking like this is probably going to be good. I'll find something to like, and then I hate it, and I'm like, what? No one told me this was bad. But I thought Under the Rainbow, like the stories of all the little actors having orgies because that was the first time they'd ever been around anyone that of their size. I was like, oh, this is going to be like a sort of look behind the scenes at their perspective. Like you could do like a before sunrise with two munchkins meeting each other. I thought this will be good, but no, it's like so dehumanizing.
It is awful.
It's like they're not like they're like the munchkins are more human and three-dimensional than the little actors in Under the Rainbow because they're just treated like gremlins.
Absolutely do not feed them after midnight. It's 100%. I can't remember when I watched it years back. I think I was stupid and believed it was a documentary or something. You know, I remember going in completely blind and thinking it was a serious portrayal of behind the scenes. I think it's when
Chevy Chase is in a hard-hitting drama.
Well, I thought this was his Uncut Gems, you know. I thought he was gonna have his. I also think I watched it around the time that folklore about the Munchkin hanging himself, you know, on the set.
That no, you didn't watch it in like 40. That's
no,
been around
no. But like when I was aware of it, I think this was like
that was in my period of getting high and listening to Dark Side.
No, this is me like 13. Man. This is when I was into Return to Oz, which one of my beloved films. So but it's been at least 20 years probably since I've seen it.
Well, Billy Barty is awful and purely out of solidarity. Like I feel like he set the perception of small actors, little actors.
He got work, you know what? No, like.
Well, that's the thing where Peter Dinklage purely made his money doing remakes of Death at a Funeral for a little while.
Sure did.
Like you have to, like they're not going to change the industry.
1981, yeah. Like
I dislike Billy Barty.
It's whoever. And I'm not going to defend Barty's performance, but it's whoever decided to make the film and fund it and direct it, and everything else is the fault. Billy Barty has to
put food on the table.
He does, yeah, and it's 1981. I understand it.
Okay. Worst supporting actress, we've already discussed the majority of this category. Shirley Knight, Endless Love as Anne Butterfield. I can't really remember Anne Butterfield, but everyone in that movie, apart from Thomas Mapother and Jimmy Spader, they were awful. Then the 3 Mommie Dearest nominations. Farrah Fawcett for The Cannonball Run.
Which I've seen The Cannonball Run, have you?
Nope.
No, okay. I can't remember much of Farrah Fawcett's performance, but Farrah Fawcett as an actress is rather notorious for her deliveries and performances, so I can understand that being in here, but I'm going to agree that, yeah, like we said earlier, it's Christina Crawford's character.
Yeah, old Christina, perfectly deserved. Worst new star, Miles O'Keefe, Tarzan the Ape Man as Tarzan. Tarzan's like a tough role, because does Tarzan not always go to, like, what was the guy, Johnny, what was the original? Johnny, I feel like Tarzan always goes to, like, athletes and swimmers, people who can meet the physical demands of the role rather than
actors. I mean, the best Tarzan that isn't animated to me is probably
Brendan
Fraser. George of the Jungle. What was the Tim Allen movie? Is there not Jungle to Jungle? Yeah. They're my picks. But I agree, it's a role what you're only going to be able to get a certain amount out of it.
You've got no time for Skarsgård.
No. He's no Fraser.
Then we have Mara Hobble, Mommie Dearest as Christina Crawford, Child. Again, maybe don't be nominating children, but that's just me.
100%.
Martin Hewitt, Endless Love as David Axelrod. Endless Love's about like an 18-year-old that dates a 15-year-old or something, and he was 18-year-old, so he's probably just on the cusp where he can't be disqualified for age, and he's pretty bad.
Okay, fair.
Gary Coleman on the right track as Lester. I know Gary Coleman was a child star, but was that TV?
Yeah, that's some sitcom that's name escaping me right now.
Yeah, no.
All in the Family.
Yeah.
One of them. I don't know. This was probably his movie breakthrough, so they're counting that as worst new star.
Yeah.
No comment.
And then worst new star, Clinton Spilsbury, Legend of the Lone Ranger. Yeah, probably fair enough. I mean,
it's a lead role, isn't it? It's
exactly.
Role, you know.
I guess if you're the titular Lone Ranger, then yeah, you are by definition a star. But he didn't really.
And that's where I would understand that lays and be, you know, your breakthrough on your looks, and you've got the lead role and the lead thing as an iconic character, and if you bomb and the film bombs, I can understand that. Yeah.
Worst screenplay: Tarzan the Ape Man, Tom Rowe and Gary Goddard. S.O.B. Blake Edwards. Heaven's Gate, Michael Cimino. No. The script's fine.
Yeah, it's dunking on Heaven's Gate here for, again, what it is and what happened to it, but no, it's not deserved.
Endless Love, Judith Rasco, and then Mommie Dearest by Frank Yablans, Frank Perry, Tracy Hotchner, and Robert Ketchell. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, which brings us on to your favorite category. Worst original song.
Love it.
You're Crazy from Honky Tonk Freeway, music and lyrics by Frank Musker and Dominic Bugatti. This is the only one we couldn't find without watching the entire film.
Not that dedicated.
Only When I Laugh from Only When I Laugh, music by David Shire, lyrics by Richard Maltby Jr. That one was
inoffensive.
Yeah, kind of standard. The Man in the Mask from The Legend of the Lone Ranger, music by John Barry, lyrics by Dean Pitchford. Both of us agree, strike this from the list.
100%. I was getting right, my later 60s spaghetti westerns where they would hire, the Italians would hire kind of rundown American singers and stuff, and it's got that cheese, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't really enjoy it, but I could understand, it fits in, I like it.
See, I didn't think spaghetti westerns. I was like, Sunday afternoon, you're at your grandparents, there's a western's been on the TV and it finishes and you get the song, like a John Wayne or like True Grit, like the Glenn Campbell.
See, I think I can agree with that, and I guess it's just because I'm a weird obsessive when it comes to it. But most 99% of spaghettis don't have that Ennio Morricone twang and guitar or harmonica. Stuff like the Ringo movies and some of the later Django films they try to be more Americanized. So a lot of the times they're not aware of what unless it's Sergio Leone or Sergio Corbucci, they're not aware of that spaghetti cliche and stuff, and all the trends and stuff haven't really been formalized, so you're kind of just winging it and basing it off the John Wayne movies.
Yeah.
So I've heard this kind of song hundreds of times and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what you want in a Western. Hearts, Not Diamonds from The Fan, music by Marvin Hamslick. and lyrics by Tim Rice.
Yes.
So this was a Lauren Bacall song. Lauren Bacall sung it. And worst I could say, well, it probably doesn't suit her as a performer, but as a song, perfectly fine.
Bland, but fine. Like, inoffensive. When you're putting on worst original song, I think we were talking about it in the last episode, it's got to be the Eggheads theme song. It's got to be...
Well, perfectly. It has to be Baby Talk from Paternity, music by David Shire, and lyrics by David Frischberg. That was just...
What a ride.
It's like... Well, I was saying it's like a day in the life. It's like a day in the life by the Beatles.
Yeah,
There's just it segues from like 4 different songs, and none of them good.
It's like the anti-smile, you know. It's just
yeah. So David Shire, 2-time nominee this year. I hope Talia was bringing home the bacon, because based off this, I don't know if he'll be getting any work in 1982. And then we have worst musical score: Zorro, The Gay Blade by Ian Fraser, Under the Rainbow by Joe Renzetti. I don't remember it having a score, to be honest with you.
No, I thought it was just knockoff themes like from Wizard of Oz, but I could be misremembering.
Okay, hold me back. This might be the least deserved Razzie of all time. Thief by Tangerine Dream.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely not.
This is just where the Razzies are... Mr. Razzie's just like a traditionalist Luddite, isn't he? That probably hates anything that isn't like a classical string score.
And I had this album as well. I had this on CD and this exact soundtrack. I had the soundtrack before I'd seen the movie.
Yeah.
Because I was going through my krautrock. I was buying loads and loads of and then I realised Tangerine Dream did so many scores, and I just picked them all up. And I do vividly remember the Thief one, and no, not having it.
Well, I only watched Thief semi-recently after James Caan died. And I remember thinking how modern the film felt. I was like, oh, wow, Drive stole so much of that.
Basically, yeah.
And like a huge part of that is the score.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's to be very charitable in a way that the Razzies do not deserve. Maybe it's like a Marvin Berry, Back to the Future. I guess you guys aren't ready for that. But your kids are going to love that thing.
But this is it. Tangerine Dream have done so many scores beforehand. And
yeah, true.
And
by 81, you should be used to that. You should be
very aware. They're very established of what they're going to do and how you're going to hear them. And I think they're in other films, they can maybe not fit, but it fits really well with Thief, like you're saying.
It's amazing.
So, yeah, no.
Heaven's Gate, David Mansfield. I don't remember the score of Heaven's Gate, which probably suggests it did a good job. Legend of the Lone Ranger, John Barry, the winner. No. I can't really remember much of the music beyond that song and beyond the William Tell overture. There's maybe a couple of Barry moments, but no, it's if you're not noticing it, it's doing a good job. I seem to remember Endless Love having a very grating, like sort of 80s sappy sentimental score.
I mean, once again, it's already a recurring. I thought it was going to be Stallone, but John Barry getting dunked on again. And no, like, I've not even seen the film, but what we listened to there, I disagree strongly. I think I'm very happy Mancini didn't get nominated for Mommie Dearest, because that would have been undeserved. However, there's no way in any life that the score from Paternity with Baby Talk is better. We're more worthy to not be nominated than any of these, really. Again, I haven't seen Lone Ranger, and I haven't heard any of the score from Zorro, The Gay Blade, but I can't picture how that could be any better.
That could be like an Oscars lineup. You look and you're like John Barry, Heaven's Gate, Tangerine Dream, and you're like, okay, yeah. You're like 3.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't know how good you've got it in 1981, you know? This is...
And then we round things up with the Worst Career Achievement Award for Ronnie Reagan.
Big Ronald.
The actor, movie star.
Yeah, so...
Fully deserved.
I've never seen any. I know he was in the Bonzo films and stuff.
I haven't seen anything, but I'm just
I've seen clips of him.
Any hatred you want to give Ronald Reagan, I'm not gonna stand against that.
I know,
so.
But this is not on any of his political. This is as an actor.
No, this is Worst Career Achievement. This is just after he's been elected.
Well, that's no. It's got to be your movie career. It's the Razzies. You know, it's not what you do after.
Okay,
Schwarzenegger.
It's my heart. The HIV crisis was handled well.
And I'm not going to Reagan's a monster, but I think this is basing Schwarzenegger on the Governor rather than his acting.
Yeah, I agree. But like, if the Razzies are doing these little weird, pathetic in jokes, like like, I don't know, trashing Ronald Reagan. Like, is it funny? No. Am I going to go out to defend Ronald Reagan?
No, I'm not going to
Also,
defend. No, but I will defend.
Just don't have the category.
I don't have the. Is this category?
Worst actor to become president.
Yeah, 100%. I'm good at that. Is this a recurring award?
No.
I know they have different.
No, they just added this to be like.
Because if Bo Derek or John Derek don't win, then it's
no,
rigged.
This is specifically like this is like a precursor to them and the My Pillow guy wanting to be like, how can we work Trump into the ceremony? This is just senile man bad.
Okay.
We don't like Ronald Reagan.
I know, fair, and I get it, but keep it away from that. By prestigious awards.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us for another episode of Watching Worst Films.
Thank
We're
you.
hopefully beginning to find our flow here. If you want to get in touch, then you can email us at watchingworstfilms@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at watchingworst. So next week, we are journeying back to 2009, I'm going to say, with Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, which I'm absolutely dreading.
Is this your first film?
This is my Mommie Dearest.
I'm not. I've never seen it.
I would gladly watch a Transformers film I haven't seen.
How many have you seen, out of curiosity?
I've seen 2.5, and this is the worst one. This
is the second one, right?
This is the second one.
I've seen the first Transformers. I can barely remember it, and then that's enough for me. I've never seen anything since.
Well, the second one is Citizen Kane in comparison to this. One of the worst movie-going experiences I had in my entire life. It was also probably I just turned 18, and so I'd begun to become the pretentious Jericho that exists now. And that was my first, like, hang on, movies can be this bad?
Okay. And you'd seen the first one?
Yeah, I saw the first one, thought it was fine.
Okay.
And I'm very, very loath to revisit this film.
Well, I can't wait. So just before we wrap things up, of your rankings, what is currently your worst of the three we've watched so far?
Diana by far.
Diana, Mommie, then decent?
Yeah. Me and John Waters are about to have a high old time watching Mommie Dearest with his commentary. Mommie Dearest I find entertaining. I would happily watch certain bits of Mommie Dearest again.
If you say I'd watch it again.
Mommie Dearest was entertaining. Mommie Dearest was almost like more entertaining than Decent Proposal in some ways. Of just like watching certain scenes. Like she had that manic energy of... It was like watching The Shining. It honestly was like watching The Shining.
I'm going to put that on the DVD box. It's like watching The Shining.
So we've been like, Diana is the worst by far, by some distance.
I would rather watch Diana with John Waters. So mine, Mommie Dearest is my least.
Well, join us next week.
So
we'll see if something is knocked that off on the spot.
This is top of the podium.